We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
You're the joker, the expert, the voice, but you want of the crowd. A vision of weakness, you're dull, but your voice is so loud. I'm the butt of your joke, cause I draw more girls you hang round. You kill to make your imprint on my soul.
Good evening. Welcome to NUFC Matters, the Fans Forum. A perfect way to start your week. And welcome to George, Darren, to Chippers, to Spenny, to Kevin, and to Barry. One or two others, I think, will be joining us throughout the programme as we look back at an FA Cup win and look ahead to a big Premier League game tomorrow night. And George, the FA Cup, you have been a lucky man compared to the rest of us on this panel, in the sense that you remember the good old days, 51, 52, 51, 52 and 55. Of course, 3 FA Cup wins in the 50s, George. How much does the competition mean to you personally? And
a great deal. And
what did you make of the game at the weekend?
My father went to all 3 and took the old rattle with him. There's the old rattle.
Hey.
Yeah. It means it's always meant a lot to Newcastle United. If you look at the years we've gone through, I mean, people forget that not only have we been to lots of finals and won a lot and lost a lot, but we've been to tons of semi-finals as well. So it's always been a competition that's been really, really important on Tyne's side. And I think it's just the magic. And the other night, I think you saw the magic when Maidstone beat Ipswich. I mean, no chance at all, but by Jove, they did it. So it's that magic, it's that spirit of that competition. And if the FA or anybody else knackers that competition, they really want the head in the hands, because it's as I say, it's just gets the people's passion of football, that somebody like Bryce Spartans, like Maidstone, like whatever could actually end up playing Manchester United or Newcastle United in a cup match. It's that magic that sets it off. So if they spoil that, and they've had attempts. My first match was 1945, right? Was the FA Cup 3rd round against Barnsley. First leg. We won 3-0 and went away to Barnsley, 4-2 rather, and went away to Barnsley and lost 3-0. But imagine, in days when the grounds were just mud heaps, trying to play 2 legs in a game. And then, of course, they hadn't thought it out. And somebody said, well, if there's a replay, is the 2 legs for the replay. And I hadn't even thought that far ahead. So, you know, the clowns have been in there all the time. It's just a passion. And I share that passion. And having watched my father go to 3 with hardly a penny in his pocket. I mean, it was going to Wembley was a day's wages more to go to London. So he couldn't go on the train or he couldn't go on a bus. So he hitchhiked. And he left work on Friday lunchtime with the boss's warning in his ears. If you're not back first thing on Monday morning, mate, Mitchell, you've got any job. That's how he went to Wembley, you know. So passion, yeah, I got the passion all right. What about our game? Well, I start with a side issue. It's not a side issue because it's the one we've all talked about. I have never heard such unprofessional commentating as I did in our match the other night. Lee Dixon should never be allowed to speak on television again. It wasn't just criticism. You could feel the hatred through the screen for Newcastle United. You know how we all say this game needs a goal, and they say it a lot on the television. He said, this game needs a Fulham goal. Well, bloody hell, you know, how dare you? Anyway, I just put it down to the fact he gets nightmares the number of times that David Ginola sat him on his arse when he played against us. But that's another issue. The match itself. There's an old saying, if you win when you're not playing well, you're not a bad team. Well, they really weren't very good in the first half. But the turning point of the match, Dubravka's save for me. If that had gone in, we were out. But that stain gave them the bit of hope that they needed to. I wouldn't have given tuppence for Bruno in the first half. Never mind 100 million. But whatever was said in the dressing room, how many Weetabix you give them, they came out and they were different. They had a go, and they even Bruno started to pick up. And then after the second goal, for at least 15, 20 minutes, a bit of the old Newcastle United came back and they started to play in the way we know they'll play. And once I seen that, I knew we weren't going to lose it. We weren't going to throw it away. So it was great. And and the usual names crop out. You know, Botman was solid as always and playing with style. Trippier was back to something like his normal self, including his dead ball. Who else was I going to mention? Longstaff wasn't brilliant, but kept ploughing away when he had to. And Lewis Miley's getting a football education as he grows up, because to play in the number of games he's playing and doing it so well, it augurs well for the future. It really does. So lots of positives, and Isak's hard as ever to nail down. So lots of positives, but as I say, the negatives were the first half was dreadful. If Fulham, as I was talking with Sam before we started, if Fulham changed to playing rugby, they've got a good team. My goodness, the number of balls that went over the top of the stand, it was amazing, just amazing. So absolutely, at the end of the day, loved it. Hated the commentary. They really ought to be disgraceful. And that girl who gets upset because Joey Barton tells her off now and again, I wish she'd stayed away. She shouldn't have come back, because what was she doing there? You know, how a girl is supposed to be a barrister can be so inane about a subject she's supposed to be expert on. Was just awful. It was just awful. So match great, commentary terrible, but I'm looking forward to the next round.
And just before we ask Darren his opinion, Lewis Miley signed a new contract today, a long extended contract, George, and my God, he's earned it.
Certainly has. I mean, let's face it. You know, it's all right throwing them in every other game for half a game and all this. He's in every match, every game now, and it's not knocking him sideways. He's actually rising to it. So he's getting a really good football education, a tough one, and I just think great for the future of the club. But I felt the last 10, 15, maybe even 20 minutes, the Newcastle we know was coming back. And from then on, I never thought we were going to lose it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I felt we were poor in the first half. We were greater in this. We were better in the second half. I genuinely see. I mean, I'm reading some of the comments. Mark Bayer saying he doesn't get why we're having a pop at Lee Dixon. Well, I'm not being funny, but I thought he was disgraceful as well. And it wasn't the fact that he wasn't commentating on Newcastle. He wanted Newcastle. He genuinely wanted Newcastle to get beat, Mark. Listen back to the game again. Watch the game again, Mark. He was having a pop at Newcastle. It was veiled at the start, but then it just became obvious to the point where Clive Tildesley, who was commentating with him, actually made a comment about it and said that they'd been a bit unfair on Newcastle to that degree. So he actually realised was it he actually realised that they were going a bit too over the top. They must have had a whole host of complaints, like going into ITV, because that's what happens. Social media now, it's knee-jerk. People are straight on, and I was disgusted. I thought it was, and I think Lee Dixon must have been, like you said, George, he's probably got nightmares from when he was put on his backside by Ginola.
It was so unprofessional. That's what annoys me. You expect, for example, when we play Arsenal, Alan Smith's the commentator. You always know he's going to be slightly biased their way. Well, okay, we can live with that. But to be so pointed, as I say, I can remember the words that printed on my bloody brain. I can hear commentators saying, and I sometimes say, this game needs a goal.
Yeah, but that's what he said. Lee Dixon, what the game needs is a Fulham goal.
Fulham goal. Yeah, I mean, bloody hell, never mind. Sorry.
Yeah, no. I think you're completely right. Darren, we're through the fifth round. Only the second time in 18 years. Potentially could be facing Blackburn or Wrexham. They play tonight, of course. Blackburn, if it is Blackburn, it'll be the fourth time in 10 fifth-round appearances that will have faced them. And I think most of us would prefer Blackburn because of the ticket allocation. We'll get 7,000 tickets for Blackburn as opposed to 1,500 for Wrexham, Darren.
Yeah, I've got to say, if it's Blackburn, I might be tempted to go to Blackburn away, but Wrexham was a hell of a long way to go. But about the game, I was quite lucky. I was in the pub with the lads watching the match, so we couldn't hear the commentary fully. But like I said, social media, a lot of the people said their commentary was shocking and disgraceful. So I look here. Unfortunately, it was a hate after Joey Barton's comments, but she just turned up again. But first off, we didn't do great. That second off, we done a lot better. But you just tell, but we're short of. We need players. I don't think we're going to get players in. That's the weird thing. We've got a hard game tomorrow night against Villa. But a couple of positive. Botman defence looked good. Botman and Shaw looked good again, and the Brobber, he's, I think, like George said, if he's to save that, I think we're struggling big style. I would say it was some couple of good points, like, but the main thing was one, confidence boost for the lads. You need to try and hopefully build on it for Villa tomorrow. That's what we need to try and do, but it will be a hard game.
Yeah, no, it will be. Dixon was adamant that our goal should be chalked off. He didn't know the rules. Gawen, you are right, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lewis Miley signed a new contract, Darren. Happy about that?
Yeah, very happy because deserves it. He's been hiding the deep end. You look at like Phil Foden from Man City. Guardiola was really, he put him in every other game or give him like a rest, but Melly's been forced in and he's dealt with a great style. He's done fantastic. Fair play to the lad. He's keeping his head level. So I'm so happy he's signed a long-term contract. So for what, just always just keeps his head level and don't get too carried away how he's what he's doing. But I believe he will. His family will look after him.
Okay, Chippers, evening. FA Cup then, through to the fifth round. Season's still very much alive. Eddie Howe was speaking at his press conference today. Said our season does, obviously it's great to still be in the FA Cup, but he did point out we're only, 6 points away from, from European positions, and the league has to be, it has to be taken seriously. We're not a million miles away, and we don't want to forget that. So it was an interesting press conference. His press conference was a lot different to Friday's. I felt there was a bit of almost negativity about potential transfers out. I think he was a bit more forthright today with what he came back with. But from his perspective, he was delighted to get through to the next round, and so were we, Chippers.
Yeah, I must admit, I didn't really like what you had to say on Friday regarding the transfer business and who he wanted to keep, and what he said with Joe Linton didn't sit well with me, to be honest. But yeah, we're through, and the first hour was almost like a pre-season game. It was almost like, you could tell we hadn't played for a few weeks, and we looked rusty, and we looked like we hadn't kicked a football, because every time we had the ball, it was like a hot potato. We just couldn't keep it for one or two passes. We just keep losing it. It was going back to them. We were just clearing it aimlessly, and although we could have been 1-0 up after 5 minutes if Murphy had taken that chance. But you know, that save from Dubravka, was it from Muniz? Was, you know, if they score the first goal, it's very difficult to come back from, because you know that they're a good team at home. But I was surprised he made 7 changes, I must admit, there, Silva, because I thought, you know, he might fancy his chances against us, coming off the back of we haven't played for 2 weeks and we seem to be a bit all over the place off the field. So, but after 60 minutes, we got the second goal, and it was just like a training session. After that, we didn't really have to waste any energy. We just kept the ball from them, and the gaps kept opening up. And you know, Gordon was able to stretch his legs a bit. You know, and it ended up being a comfortable routine win, and getting through was pretty straightforward in the end. But yeah, it's ITV's coverage was a joke. I mean, no offence to McAnuff, and you know, is it any Lugo? They've never played for Fulham. They've never played for Newcastle. So why are they punditry on a Newcastle and Fulham game? It makes no logical sense. Bearing in mind, you know, ITV had Robbie Fowler for a Liverpool game yesterday, and they had Jolie Mescott for West Bromwell's game yesterday, who played for both teams. So it made no sense to me. But you know, we're through. That's the main thing, and I hope we do get Blackburn, because I don't fancy a banana skin of Wrexham away. I'd rather have a Blackburn away, and you would say that was the more safer option to get through. And obviously for tickets as well, we'll get the full stand down there. So, you know, but I am a bit worried about tomorrow night, because I did think the first half of the midfield was a bit all over the place, like until Howe changed Longstaff and Miley around and got themselves together a bit. But tomorrow's a different game, so we'll see. Touch wood, but again, on Saturday we're through. That's the main thing. For the second time, was it 18 years? So that's laughable as well. But you know, you've got to be in it to win it. You know, unlike Arsenal, unlike Tottenham, they're not in it. So we've got a better chance of them winning it, haven't we?
Got to be in it to win it. Barry, good evening.
Hello, mate.
Yeah, good result. 2-0 win. Not the prettiest performances, but a 2-0 win nonetheless, and through the next round.
Yeah, I think it was one of those games, wasn't it? We did what needed to be done. We didn't play great, but the defence looked solid compared to what they have done recently. I read various people having yet another dig at Big Dan Burn, and I don't think it was down to him. I think he was left, especially when Longstaff was on the pitch. Longstaff went missing more times than out else, and just left 2 players charging at Dan Burn down the left-hand side, who did his best to defend when he could. So I think we struggled, like you guys are saying, the midfield struggled against them. Bruno didn't look particularly good, but at the end of the day, Steve, we got the through to the next round. That's all anybody's going to remember. You know, I'm sure even in the 1950s teams, George, that sometimes they didn't play great, but they turned the teams over to get to the next round.
Some terrible games, Barry. Some terrible games.
Yeah. It's just I've watched before I came on. I was watching the Eddie Howe press conference, like you said, and he just looked fed up. And I can understand, Steve, with some of the questions. It was just, are you going to sell this player? Are you going to sell that player? Are you going to get rid of this one? Are you going to get rid of that one? And it's just like, just get off his back. You know, we've got a day and a bit to go till the end of the transfer window. I'm getting the strong belief that it's not necessarily who Eddie Howe wants to get rid of. I think it's looking at who the club thinks is a good idea financially to move on. Because I think Howe would be more than happy to get to the end of the transfer window and not have anybody leave. I don't think we're getting anybody in. I cannot see it happening. There's a lot of links flying backwards and forwards. I mean, some of the joke questions that were chucked at him, I felt quite sorry for him when they were on about the kid from Aston Villa. And Eddie Howe basically turned around, it's a load of crap. It's just like there's no chance of him coming out. I thought, good for you, mate. Just batter them down. And then the guy asked about somebody else. And again, he just went, no. It's not. I just thought I'm sick of him getting harassed by some of these so-called journalists who seem to just ask the same bloody questions over. Well, how long, Eddie, is it till Elliot Anderson's coming back? Because he's been out for a while, and you just think, oh, for God's sake, man, focus on what we're doing well and the fact that Murphy's come back. It's like the same. Some of the people who are in his press conference just seem to be having a go at him at the minute. And it wasn't great performance, but he got us through the next round, like you have said, in how many years? How many other managers haven't gotten us this far?
18.
18 years. I mean, God, Steve, it's pre-Ashley. You know what I mean? Since the last time we were in the next round of the cup. I just think Howe's doing the best he can with the players that we've got. And it does worry me a little bit that certainly some of the transfer talk, if there's truth in the Trippier going, Wilson going, Lascelles possibly going, how much of it has been taken out of his hands. But I suppose, like you guys have said, the summer's going to be the big transfer window. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. I know somebody's just said there about the journalists. I just wish they would think about some decent questions before they ask them, instead of asking the same crap week after week. And especially when it's the local journalists, because then it makes me want to not listen to them. A lot of the times I'd rather listen to Ben Jacobs than half the ones who actually go on and ask him stuff at the press conference, because it's the same crappy questions every time. But maybe that's just me.
No, I think it's fascinating to listen to the press conferences because, you know, I mean, obviously I do the press conference review. I do it as much for myself as for the channel, because I think I listen to it more clearly when I'm having to write it down and then, you know, come back on what who said what and who asked what. And I think I find it crazy at times that in a half an hour press conference, one journalist asked one question, and then 15 minutes later, a different journalist asked the same question when we've already got the answer. Surely you're wasting a question. You know what I mean? Get a question in which can be of value. You know, nobody asks like the important questions, and it's left to the same old faces who do that. You know, but moving on, we'll get back to the game of the weekend. Kev, good evening, good afternoon for you. It's good morning. Afternoon. I thought, I was right. Give us your take on the game, mate.
It wasn't for the purist, I would say that. It was difficult to analyze it from my eye, but had a lot of distractions going on with kids' parties and stuff. But at the same time, like everybody else has said, that we're through to the next round. It doesn't matter how. I think I said last week on whatever show it was that as long as we get through, we'll get through. We'll take whoever we'll get in the draw. We'll get in the draw, like Eddie Howe said today. We'll just take them. Whoever we'll get. We can't control anything in that regard. So. It was an interesting performance. I thought Bruno was quite poor. I thought they tactically found him out a little bit, and he couldn't pass the ball to save his life. But then he switched it a little bit centrally with Miley and Longy moving over and swapping, and that helped. But I thought we isolated Isaac a lot. I thought the ball into him was not the greatest, even from two of the better passes of the ball out the back are Botman and Shaw. They typically find them, but it was just pretty much kicking and hoping at some point. And he got very, very isolated and we couldn't get close. But, you know, that it is what that is. Like Chip has said, and I said that to my family here, you can just tell that we haven't played for 2 weeks. Yeah, you can do all the training, you can have the high intensity, you can do everything of the above. But when you're playing in a game, it's completely different. And that showed in the first half, and we were a little bit lackluster, a little bit sloppy. But again, you know, we went in 1-0 up, and then you could get a second just to make it that a little bit more comfortable and see the game out. And again, get through with no injuries, get through with, you know, a positive, and you know, you build momentum through that way. And I agree with what Eddie Howe said today, and how about the confidence element. It's all about winning, and it doesn't matter how you win. It's about winning football matches at the end of the day, and that's what we've done. So pleased to get through. It's going to be interesting who we go with. If it's Wrexham or Blackburn, I'll be sitting watching that a little bit before I head out to go to work. So we'll see how that plays out. I agree again with Chip today that I prefer Blackburn over Wrexham. So again, don't want the Hereford moment from back in whenever it was back in the day, you know, especially when we're getting a bit ahead of steam. But yeah, so again, it's a good result all the way around. And just touching on Miley contract, I knew that a little bit early last week. I knew that was happening, but I was sworn to secrecy through all of it, and whatever. But I knew it was going to be a big deal. He was going to get it. It was just whether it was a matter of if, not when not if. Sorry, but yeah. So good result. We'll move on to the next round, and let's have a good performance tomorrow night at Villa Park.
Okay, Spenny, your views on the FA Cup game?
You're just talking about the FA Cup game, yeah?
Yeah.
For me, the first half, Botman was absolutely disgraceful. We were under par. The change of the game was when Harry Wilson got lamed and took off the game because he was running rings around him. Botman kept drifting in the centre as usual. Wasn't in his place all the time, which makes us vulnerable. Second half, like George said, I think he had a good talk to them, and the team changed. And the confidence was there with the midfield change, which Kev's just pointed out, with Longstaff and Miley changing positions. I think Longstaff was lost where he was, and you could see it really plainly on the left-hand side. I'm absolutely delighted with progress in the FA Cup as well. It's great for the team. It's great for the area, because it's always got an affection, the FA Cup, to Newcastle as well. And going back to what George is about his first game, my first game was Liverpool away in 1984, and we got beat 4 out. Ian Rush scored 2.
Bless you.
Classic. Great stuff. For me personally, though, I'm just pleased to be through to the next round. And that's ultimately what it's all about. As George says, playing badly and winning games, it's not a bad thing to do. Lewis Miley, Spenny, happy to see him sign on the dotted line.
I am happy. Yes, it's good for the club. It's good for the lads. But I feel as though he needs a bit of a break, to be honest, from the team. I think he's getting a bit jaded with the amount of games he's playing. He's progressed too far for me, but there's nobody else to put in, so we buggered, haven't we?
Well, so yes, funny.
Okay, we are halfway through the show. As you know, that means we have an ad break. We'll be back after this. We'll be looking ahead to the Villa game and taking maybe a question from you out there. So if you've got one, stick it in and we'll see if we can get through it. A big thanks to all our sponsors. Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website skipsandbins.com. Easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks again to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. If you'd like to order some, then give them a call on 01768 210 102. Go to the website, mrvickys.co.uk, or drop them an email, info@mrvickys.co.uk. A big thanks to United Group Travel. They're a family firm based in Morpeth with pickups throughout the Northeast. No strangers on our tours, just people you haven't met yet. They've got a presence on Facebook and a website, unitedgrouptravel.com. If you want to make a booking, give them a call on 01670 632 460 or mobiles 0791 666 4174 0795 71 41654. Thanks to Darren Baldwin Funerals, independent funeral directors. Let us look after you in your time of need. They're based on Old Durham Road in Gateshead, and you can contact them at their website, darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk. Email darren@darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk or give them a call, 0191 478 2730. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. And a big thanks to New Workwear. You can find them at newworkwear.com. If you want to help the channel, hit the thumb up to subscribe, hit the subscribe button, and share to your other social media. You can also pay a one-off fee of £25 to get a scarf, a cup, a pen, and a membership card. Go to the website, nufcmatters.com, and click membership, or put your smartphone over this QR code. We also support the food bank on this channel. If you want to make some donations virtually, go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk and make a donation today. We're also a podcast on Spotify, iTunes, and other podcast providers. Just search NUFC Matters. I'm also a part of the Northeast Footy Brekkie Show. You can listen to that Monday to Friday, 7 till 9 at thetooneuk.com. Okay, welcome back to NUFC Matters. It is the fans forum on Monday night. Gary Milligan asks us a question. He says, does the panel think we'll be able to sign the same type of players for next season if we don't finish as high as last season? It's interesting because Eddie Howe, George, was asked about the, potentially having a war chest in the summer. That was a Craig Hope question. Did he think he'd have money to spend in the summer? Because obviously the financial fair play runs in 3-year cycles. It comes to an end this one. So Newcastle will, of course, have sponsorship coming in from Adidas and from Seller to take into consideration. Champions League money will be coming in. Players will be going out because players' contracts are up as well. Do you think the summer will be a more livelier transfer window, George?
Yes. Look, the one thing everybody should remember about the people that own it now, they don't like second. And if they think they've got to do something about the team in the summer, they'll do it. I think if it wasn't for various things, including FFP, although I still think they're using that as a crutch, we would be in the market now, but certainly in the summer. Otherwise, where does that so-called project go? They've got to keep faith with that, and I just can't see them letting it go. One thing they've got to do, though, is that they've got to get a bit more football nous, if you like, in the middle and upper management. Some of the things that they say, some of the things they're doing, just beg a belief sometimes. In fact, not just football management generally, because some of the mistakes they make, and particularly towards things to do with the fans, just are ridiculous. Anyway, I think he'll have a war chest. You're right to mention the sponsorships that's there, Steve, but I think we all know that there's going to be more by the summer comes. I mean, I'd be amazed if, for example, the stadium just remains St James's Park next year. I think it'll be something at St James's Park. St James's Park will still be there. Something like Aramco at St James's Park. For 25 million a year, yes, please. And I think that'll all come, and I think they're the sort of people who'll see that goes towards players. My previous owner would have just back pocketed all of that, but I'm sure these people will put most of it into playing staff and boost the academy and all of those sorts of things. So yes, and there's other sponsorships, isn't it? The potential to sell the academy, potential to have sponsorships on training gear. All of those things are untouched at the moment. I'd be amazed if there's not a lot of them tied up by the summer comes, and that money's directed towards anyhow for players. So yes, I'm fairly positive about it that will be in the market. The other thing about it, whether it'll attract other players of the same quality, the answer is if the players that we've got now stay as it looks like they're going to, that'll attract the other quality players, because like attracts like, even in football, and they want to be where others that are doing well want to be, and obviously the higher up the league we can go and get into a European competition, that would make a lot of sense as well. But I think if we keep the squad we've got, and particularly the talisman like Trippier and so on, I think we'll get the same sort of players in, and I'm looking forward to it, to be honest.
Darren, transfer window has been quiet for everybody, not just for Newcastle. Obviously, there's a few days left. But yeah, do you expect a busier summer?
Yes, totally. I think I don't think we'll get anybody in now till the summer. It's like you said before, we've got a lot of players out of contract, and that'll help the wage bill, and so we can get players in. But I don't think we're going to finish as high as everybody think. I think it'll be looking for finish 8th at best now. My personal opinion. You have a confidence boost at the best. I think we'll finish. May qualify that if we're lucky, but I don't think we'll finish that high, in my opinion. And then we'll go again in the summer and get good players in, and then that's when we'll we'll see a dip in Newcastle United, and that'll help us for the following season after that. We'll be more prepared for it. We'll get sponsorship deals coming in and money to spend. We're still going to like Deadwood to get rid of, you know. So like Joe Litton, he's asking for too much money, I've heard. So Newcastle are like, well, no, Newcastle say they're not getting forced by players asking for too much money. So it's a funny one. Like it's got to tread carefully and watch what they're doing.
Yeah, got to tread carefully with FFP. Are you expecting a busier summer, Chippers?
I'm expecting a very busy summer. I think there's at least 5 or 6 players out of contract. You know, you've got the 2 goalkeepers that are out of contract. There's Karius and Gillespie out of contract. You've got Kraft out of contract. You've got Lascelles out of contract. You've got Richie out of contract. You've got who else? There's a couple more. Dummett's out of contract as well. So there's at least 5 players out of contract in the summer. So they'll probably all be moved on. Fraser, Hendrick. There's 2 more.
And Manquillo's gone, of course.
Yeah, you could also possibly sell maybe likes of, you know, Hayden for a small cheap fee, and possibly if Wilson goes in the summer, and you can replace him for a fee, things like that. Yeah, it's got to be busier because, you know, we might not have a squad come if all these players go before we sign anybody. I just think I think what's happened this season has come a couple of years far too early for them. And had we done, say, what Villa had done, our opponents tomorrow and qualify for the Europa League this season, I don't think anyone would have batted an eyelid. I think it would have been a lot more realistic. And we could have done it slowly, but you know, who's to say Villa won't have the bounce next season that we're having this season because they're playing so well, and you know, you might expect them to fall off next season. It's just how it is, but. Yeah, I expect a lot busier summer considering the amount of players that are out of contract, and basically we need a squad. It's as simple as that. We need 2 teams, and we haven't got that. We've basically got 1 and a bit when they're fit, if that. So yeah, I'm expecting a very busy summer up here.
Yeah, I would hope so. It's funny. The thought that crossed my mind today was, you know, you mentioned Villa. Look, they've had Europe as well. You know, Eddie Howe mentioned in his press conference, and they've coped very well with it. But I think that's down to the experienced manager. Unai Emery has in his past jobs had to deal with league and European cups, and Eddie Howe hasn't. And I think this season was as much of a learning curve for Eddie Howe and Darren Tindall and his backroom staff as it was for the players. And I think, you know, if we qualify for Europe next season, I think we'll have learned a lot from it. And I think we'll give a better showing. We gave a great showing of our, you know, of our intent and our how we could possibly attack the Champions League moving forward in that group. Yeah, we finished bottom, but we gave a good account of ourselves. You know, beating PSG, going away to Milan and getting that wonderful draw. You know, we weren't overrode as people expected, but yeah, I think Eddie Howe will have learned a lot from that as well, definitely. Barry, yeah, bigger summer, I would imagine, with the lack of spends in this window.
Yeah, obviously we're improving all the time. I mean, they're just getting that young kid from Man City, haven't they? They're still, I mean, obviously there's no other transfers happening on, but we obviously the intent's there to get like we said before, it's been said on here that they're looking at the right players at the right time. Maybe in this transfer window there just wasn't that opportunity. I think I was thinking about the other day, and obviously this season is sort of fizzled out a bit. But for me, this season is probably what we should have had last season. You know, when we overachieved last season, where we were hammering teams away from home, which Newcastle tend not to do. Their home form tends to be fantastic, and then they struggle away from home. Last season, we didn't have that issue. You know, we qualified for the Champions League. We were playing out of our skin. We were playing way above our level. Whereas, for me, I would have flipped it around had this season, last season, where we'd struggled a bit. But that's what football's all about. We're on a plan because of financial fair play. We've got to do it gradually. We can't do what Man City did. We can't do what Liverpool did and spend absolute huge amounts of money. What Chelsea have done, they're ahead of us because they've had that opportunity to spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions and gradually build a team. We're having to do it. We're doing it over a period of time and trying to avoid getting ourselves into deep water financial fair play wise. I was thinking again about it's a shame we couldn't bring Mr. Carr back in with his French contacts, because I think especially with this club's finances behind the scenes, I was thinking it's a shame he wasn't still around, because the number of immensely talented players he came up with suggested to Mike Ashley and the club didn't want to know. But we did bring in some really quality players. We should be. I think for me, I'm sick to death hearing us going after players in the Premier League, where the Premier League teams just seem to take the mick out of us. Our best players that we've got in the team, there's none of them. Well, I might be wrong, but the majority of them are from abroad. You've got your Botmans, you've got your Brunos, you've got your Isaacs, are all being bought from foreign leagues. I would say stuff the Premier League now for experienced players, or maybe look at the young uns, which is what we seem to be doing. But I would go abroad where clubs aren't going to take the mick out of us, and we can pay reasonable money for quality players. I think you guys is totally spot on. I think in the summer, this will be our chance to prove our worth and actually really strengthen the squad, bring in 3, 4, possibly 5 quality signings and just move on from there. I think, like you said there, Steve, we've got to look at this season. It's a learning curve. You know, the European competition was superb to watch. The games that you mentioned, the PSG games. Yeah, we came bottom of the group, but nobody gave us a chance in hell anyway. You know, how many times did we prove people wrong that we were within a skin's teeth of beating teams or getting through the next round? No, I think we'll move on again. We'll get to the summer. I disagree with Darren as much as I don't like to do it. I still think there's an awful long way to go in this season. I think if we get some of these players back and house stuff to get them up, there's no reason we can't move up the table. And if nothing else, get to the Europa League place.
Hopefully get back in midfield, because Joe Linton's out the rest of the season. Now he's suspended. Only leaves one.
Well, you've got Ryan Fraser's only obviously back. You've got Joe Willock's getting closer.
But he's not going to play. Eddie Howe's not going to play for us.
You've got all. I mean, look, in the next, Murphy came back at the weekend, lads. Murphy came back at the weekend. Looked as if he'd never been away. Harvey Barnes is 2 weeks away. He was signed as a player at the start. Let's face it. And then you've got Joe Willock, who isn't too far away either. You know, within the next month, our midfield is not back to full strength, but it's not far off. You're missing Joe Linton, and that's it. Bruno's going to get suspended at some point. You would imagine Anthony Gordon's going to get suspended at some point as well. I don't think it's doom and gloom on the midfield, and if we lose Almiron, I will be surprised. I really will be surprised.
Just going back to your point there, Steve, about 2 weeks, Harvey Barnes. I got the impression of Eddie Howe's press conference, he was on the same level as Callum Wilson, so I respect.
Yeah, he could be back. He could be back tomorrow, mate. He could be. Yeah. Listen, you can't believe a word Eddie Howe says at his press conferences. But I made the point when I did the press conference review earlier today that essentially, you know, he's not given any time limits. But yeah, they both could be available tomorrow. He's playing mind games with Emery, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I don't think the midfield's the main concern running into the run in, and like somebody.
I do think we need Joe Willock back ASAP, because he's a massive miss for me.
Yeah, he is. There's no doubt. There's no doubt about it. But don't forget, lads. You know, we've had all these injuries. Villa haven't had any. Haven't had anywhere near as many injuries. We didn't have that last season. That was the reason. You know, that Newcastle did so well. And I think the away form's been the big disappointment. But the good thing is we've beaten Sunderland 3-0 away. We've beaten Fulham 2-0 away. And essentially, you know, we just need to find that, you know, that kind of form away from home in the league. And I'm sure we will. Kev, transfer window summer, do you think it'll be better?
I hope so. Yes, we could have all this money to spend, which we will have. But again, it's how wisely we spend this money on the players, where it's needed. We've got to be still very clever and creative, as the word's being used coming out of the club within a transfer market. I agree with Barry. I don't think we're going to get a sniff at any Premier League team when we're looking for their players or whatever it'll be, their A-teams or their academy prospects. That's when we might be able to get something from there. I would go look abroad. I would look somewhere different and find little diamonds across Europe and across the world. You know, it's a big old place. So, you know, you're going to find players across a spectrum of different levels. It's just depending, again, what you need. I don't think midfield will be a concern, and I agree with that. I think it's going to be more back four, possibly another young goalkeeper who can, challenge and develop and grow. And it's another. I think we need another centre forward, maybe two, just for the workload, the potential that we could have next season if we make it into a Europe. It all depends. I wouldn't think we're going to go and spend 70 million plus on asset individual. I think it's going to be a lot of 20s, 15s, somewhere around in that mark. I would agree in terms of 5 or 6 players to facilitate those that are gone. But again, it just depends on the final position said come May. Where do we finish? What does the transfer plan look like after the last game of the season? And do we push and spend big and go with whatever competitions we're in, or do we just consolidate and find good Premier League players or those who can be good high level to get us into that next echelon of where we want to be? Again, those are the decisions I would imagine that we've made as this back end of the season comes to a close. Again, it's difficult on a financial level where we can go because we don't know what competitions we're going to be playing in. So it's going to be dependent on that, in my opinion. So hopefully we'll get some business in. I think we need more out than we need more in, to be perfectly honest. So we'll see. Again, we'll see what happens and where we finish.
And you've got the Euros as well, in the summer. That's another
exactly.
thing.
You might find
it.
Some decent play. Yeah, it's a short window, the Euros. For the most part, you might find some unknown quantity somewhere from who's qualified, and they'll have an unbelievable tournament, and then you can, get in the market for them. I totally agree with that. Yes, we'll see where we finish, and I think the transfer plan will be based off of that.
Okay, Spenny, hopes for a better summer in the transfer market.
We've got 2 new signings in the summer coming, haven't we? We've got Tyne coming back, and we've got Mintev. So that's like 2 new signings for us, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think we will have a busy summer. I think we will get what we want in a team. But don't get us wrong, this team we've got here beating everybody except Liverpool and Tottenham above us with this team. And if this team comes back, there's no stopping on us coming up that league, especially the games and fixtures we have. We've already played Liverpool. We've already played Man City. We don't have to play them again. So who have we got to worry about? Got Arsenal away.
Arsenal, Chelsea.
Arsenal away. 1 game. We can beat Chelsea, beat Tottenham at home.
We'll win at Man U as well.
Man U, man. Anyway,
we'll beat them.
For me, it's definitely with the goalkeepers lost as well in 3 contracts at the end of the season. I think we'll go for the goalkeeper. I think we'll go for the centre back as well. Midfield, like you said, Steve, it all depends what Joe Linton's going to do as well. If we go in for that, I could see Harvey Barnes coming back Tuesday, Steve, to be honest, with Wilson on the bench.
Yeah.
Just give him another 20 minutes or something like that in the game. For me, we've done our wingers, except the right wing. I think we covered in the left. And it's just like really the right wing. It depends on Almiron. I think Almiron will be sold in the summer if he doesn't go this January, and Wilson will be as well. So that'll be the positions I think we'll go for. I think we will spend money in the summer.
Yeah, me too. Okay, got about 10 minutes left. Let's talk Villa. Big game this. Andy, the Villa fan, is in the chat. He's pointing out that Villa have had injuries as well. Look, Villa seem to have handled European football slightly better than us. And I do still think that's down to the experience of the manager. I still think the manager is,
Plus, playing lesser teams than us, aren't we? What we were playing.
Exactly, 100%, mate. I agree with that 100%. But we play Villa at an 8:15 kickoff tomorrow night, live on TNT Sports. And Eddie Howe didn't give too much away, but said Lascelles wouldn't be fit. Miggy Almiron, he's hoping he will be available after his bout of illness at the weekend. Bruno, of course, we've mentioned 1 yellow card away from reaching 10. Anthony Gordon, 2 from reaching 10, which brings a 2-match suspension. Spenny and I both think Harvey Barnes and Callum Wilson are a bit closer than Eddie is prepared to admit, but there'll be no space in the squad for Joe Willock, Elliot Anderson, Matt Targett, Nick Pope, or Joe Linton. Referee tomorrow night is John Brooks. It's his second game in charge of a Newcastle fixture. The first one was Liverpool at St James's when he sent off Virgil van Dijk, and Andy Madeley is in charge of VAR. So, George, big game this, huge game for us. We've managed to keep in contention with the teams above us. Getting something at Villa would go a long way to keeping our European dreams alive.
It would, and I'll be honest, he's not going to need a dressing room talk, is he? He's just going to remind them how they got whitewashed up here when they came up for the early part of the season. So his dressing room talk's already done for him. But the other thing is, of course, is that haven't learned a little bit. They're going to be on their toes, and expect something. So I just hope Eddie Howe has the courage to have a go at them, and because they're another team that plays the high line, and as we saw against Manchester City, we're quite effective against the high line against us, and we could be the same with them. So I'm quite positive about it. I think we'll come back with a result. Probably. Do you want a prediction?
Yeah, give us a prediction as well, George.
2-2.
2-2. That's what I've gone for. 2-2 as well. I think a draw. I think it'll be an entertaining game. I think there'll be goals in it from both sides, but I'm going to go for a 2-2 as well. What about you, Darren?
I think it's going to be a very hard game. I think we'll be lucky to get a draw. I just think Villa's wanted revenge after beating them first game of the season, having them 4-1. Hopefully you get players like come back, but it's going to be a hard game. As long as we go around fighting, and we will, but I'll settle for a 1-1, best I can hope for, but it'll be a hard game tomorrow.
Okay, Barry.
It's shocking going after you and George, because I'm going to go with the 2-2 as well. And I have a feeling Spenny was heading the same way. I might be wrong. He might be changing it, but I think it'll be a tough game. But if we play it to form, and Eddie knows what they're capable of, I think we're as good as they are. On our day, we're as good as them. We've got some quality players, so it should be a cracking match. Steve, I just want to say before anybody else gets, obviously I've got condolences to the Liverpool fans for Mr. Klopp moving on. I'm really sad. I'm absolutely gutted, and I'm even more disappointed today by the story that poor Arsenal might be losing Mr. Arteta at the end of the season. But I'll be so pleased that we get rid of two of the most miserable twisty gits in the league at the end of this Premier League season. I am wearing black, especially for the old Clippity.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, you would have thought he died over the weekend, mate. I mean, it's been the outpouring of media overload has been absolutely ridiculous, mate. So yeah, well done on mentioning that. 2-2. Yeah, it seems to be popular. Spenny, what about you?
I'm going 3-2 to us. I am. I think we'll win. And like what George said there, it'd be like playing Man City, and they haven't got a super De Bruyne to come on and score a goal and score another one or make another one. For me, it'd be 3-2 for the two.
3-2. I love his positivity. I think the people out there love it as well. Chippers, are you going to bring us back down to earth?
Do you know what? I fancy, like you and Barry. I said I fancy 2-2 for some strange reason. I just think both teams they'll not. I mean, if this is 0-0, I'll be shocked, because I don't expect both teams to cancel each other out. I do see that we have to score first to have a chance of getting something from the game. I think if they score first, it's gonna be a long night for us. So, but I think we can get a 2-2 because they are gettable to be got at. I don't know if recently before the break that they were winning games, but they weren't. I mean, they conceded 2 to Burnley, and it took them to the 99th minute to beat Burnley at home, and I think they weren't playing at full tilt, and I think they may end up. They've got to come back down to earth at some stage. For all the good that they've had this season, they've got to level out a bit, and and I think we're quite capable of doing that. But it's just how we start the game. We've got to start the game on the front foot and in their faces, and don't give them an easy ride. If we give them an easy ride, then they'll walk over like they did last season. So I'm going to say a 2-2, but it still wouldn't surprise us if they beat with 2 or 3-0. It's just one of them games about either way it can happen. So, but
3-2,
2-2
man.
for me.
Wilson's going to come off the bench and score the winner. There you go.
You'll get injured. You'll get injured. You come off the bench.
Doesn't matter if he gets injured.
I'm back tomorrow. I've pre-recorded the show. It is Talk of the Tune with myself, Sid, and Rob. A little bit of music, a little bit of a book review, and a little bit of Newcastle United chucked in as well. It's 6 o'clock tomorrow night, so a little show there before the big kickoff at 8:15, and then I'm back live tomorrow night, Wednesday night, with the lads on Geordie's here. Geordie's there, and the American Magpie is going to join us. He's had me, Mitch, and Stu on his channel. Kev's been on there as well, I think. And yeah, nice guy. We're going to have him on as a guest on Wednesday night.
Didn't want to speak because he couldn't understand us.
He may get you on eventually. You never know.
You won't understand us as well.
but for now, thanks to George, thanks to Darren, thanks to Barry, thanks to Spenny, thanks to Chippers, and thanks to
you,
Kev.
lads. Good to see you, lads.
Have a good week.
Kev had to jump off. Kev had to jump off for a work call, so thanks to Kev as well. Take care, guys.
Bye bye.
Good night.
See you.